Hi, I'm Dave, and I'm going to do another unboxing. I know it's ridiculous, isn't it? You might know me from RPG a Day, and over the last few weeks I've been unboxing role-playing games. I did some Dots and Daleks, I did some Walking Dead, and last week I did the old TSR Indiana Jones RPG because it was fun. And I asked people what sort of games they'd like to see me unbox. And the only response, hi Edge, is to do the Ghostbusters one. So this one is particularly important one for me anyway. So the Ghostbusters RPG was done by West End Games, and it came out in '86. Okay, so set the Wayback Machine to 1986. I will have been probably still at school, but only just, and played a lot of games, run a few games like Star Frontiers and Indiana Jones, and was very into it in a big way. I've always loved licensed RPGs, as I mentioned last time, and I love Ghostbusters so very, very much. So much so that when Ghostbusters came out on VHS, I bought that as a rental new VHS copy. I went into my local video store and I paid like £10 a week to buy it on rental copy before it came out to purchase, basically. I think it cost about 70 or 80 quid. It took weeks and weeks, pocket money, doing chores, things like that. But I had my own copy of Ghostbusters. I could watch it as many times as I liked. I bought the record, I bought the 12-inch, I bought the picture disc, I had the toys. I got given the Fright Features Venkman as my gift for being best man at a wedding. You know, I've still got that upstairs actually. I must dig that out. So of course when the Ghostbusters RPG came out, I leapt at the opportunity because, hey, it's Ghostbusters, I love it. But I wasn't really prepared for how much it would completely change my life. So I'm going to discuss that while I open the box. So as you can see, here we go. This is the Ghostbusters RPG from West End Games. Now, a short disclaimer here, this isn't my original copy of this. I owned it when it first came out, and in a fit of complete foolishness, I sold it to one of my friends who I still game with. So he's got my copy of Ghostbusters somewhere, and I regretted it ever since, much like my copy of Star Frontiers. So I ended up buying it again off of eBay about 10 years ago, I think it was. I was very happy with the eBay purchase, and this is it. Thank you, whoever sold it to me. I can't remember who you are, but thank you. I very much appreciate it. So opening this, it feels a little bit weird because it's not actually my copy of it that was, but it is my current copy of it. So, box set. I always love the good box sets. Let's pop that down there, shall we? Boop. We'll come to the cool cards later. It's a little bit wrinkly on the top there, but hey, when you get a game that's this old, you kind of expect that sort of thing. In fact, I'm going to move the whole thing out to one side so I can take each part out individually. The first thing that you get are some reference files. So reference file A, let's take out the other reference files so you don't see them. So reference file A is how to play, which basically is the, hey, I've just opened this box, what the hell's an RPG thing? So it gives you a basic rundown of it all, the basics of the rules, and so choose a character, traits, talents, brownie points, equipment. It's so simple, this game, you wouldn't believe. And then on the back, there's a letter from Lewis Tully, Ghostbusters International, and you have opened your own franchise of Ghostbusters wherever you like. You can set it in your hometown, you can set it in New York, you can set it wherever you like. But basically, the Ghostbusters have franchised out the business so you can operate your own version of Ghostbusters in your own hometown. Great, I love it. Reference file B has a typical 10 minutes of play, just in case you've never played an RPG before. And there we go. And then there's some more copyright information for setting up your international franchise contract, which needs to be signed and handed to your regional director for the franchise. And then reference file C has some more paperwork, which is your release from damages form, which you need to take to every case that you have, so that you're released from completely destroying any public property, vehicles, papers, or family and friends, or self, including injury, maiming, dismemberment, death, or loss of confidence or sex drive. You've got to love this. So yes, you need to get the clients to sign this before you go ghostbusting. On the back there is a permit for carrying one of those portable reactors around with you, and to say to the EPA that it poses no threat to the health or welfare of the people of the United States. Form printed on 100% recycled nuclear waste. I mean, this. And then there's a quick guide to the class levels of the various spooks, spectres and ghosts that you're going to encounter in the game. Great. By now you've probably seen the level of humour. So there's some maps for one of the adventures, and of course, being signed up to Ghostbusters International, you have to make your last will and testament, because it could happen. It's dangerous out there. So you've got some cool paperwork to go with it. I have a little piece of paper there just to protect these. And then came the player's book, which was the training manual. I remember fondly reading this, and as I said, this was the life-changing experience for me, because not only did I love Ghostbusters and I loved role-playing, but reading this and how it's written, it really opened my eyes as to how a tabletop RPG could be, in the way that it's just fun. It's funny. It's really funny to read, and you can read the whole thing from cover to cover and enjoy the experience of reading rules, which to me was a complete and utter. It was a completely new thing. I mean, I was used to reading RPG game rules that read like stereo instructions. Oh, you must take something from this column and roll some dice and then factor in the mathematical formula to see whether you've actually impaled the orc in the knee with your +5 sort of poking. It was just dry. And then reading this, it was just funny, and it was just so darn cool. And then I had that moment of clarity. If it's fun for me to read, somebody has had a hell of a lot of fun writing this. And this is what I want to do. This is my career choice. I want to have fun writing fun and accessible role-playing game rules. You can live in hope, can't you? let's continue that story later. So you have your little thing about designing your character, choosing a little picture to go on your ID card, and your traits and your talents. In fact, I'm going to skip ahead here and dig out one of the ID cards. This is a character sheet. This is it for Venkman, who was always my favourite character in there, because I just wanted to be as cool and confident as Venkman was, and I was a nerdy teenager who had no conversational skills. So yeah, you see you have 4 stats: brains, muscles, moves and cool. Venkman, of course, very high in the cool stats there. And then you have a talent for each trait: parapsychology, brawl, seduce, bluff. And that is all you have stats wise. That is a whole character there. You have a little tally for your brownie points, and you have a goal which your character is aiming for, and that's it. Your brownie points act like story points or drama points or hero points, and it's just so simple. Anyway, so that is a character sheet. This one goes through actually creating your own character. So none of this starting a game with only the pre-generated characters like Indiana Jones. See last week. So yeah, there we go. And so each of the traits has got a little reference here. So like brains, you can pick various pick a talent, like soap opera romances, which might not be a very useful skill, and that's your only skill you get. Muscle has got gobble food, kick things over. Moves, got breakdance. What's the 80s? Come on. Make music, gossip. Cool, you have things like charm, convince, play poker, play the stock market, raise children. Okay. So each character starts with 20 brownie points, and you can spend them to boost your rolls and everything like that. Brilliant. So easy. So a little bit about personal goals. So you have your personal goal can be sex, wealth, fame, soulless science, or serving humanity. And then you sort of work out what your personality's like. And there you go. That's all you need. And this is the complete rules, really. You have a difficulty, which is automatic success, easy, normal, hard, impossible. So when your character Ghostbuster wants to perform a task, the Ghostmaster assigns a difficulty, tells you which trait it is. You roll as many dice as you have points in, and then you total them up. And then, of course, there's a ghost die, which always has to be included in there. So if you had a normal thing, you had to roll 10 or more, and in Venkman's case, say for example he was trying to think of something, but he was using his parapsychology talent, then you roll 5 dice, try and get 10 on total. Pretty easy. Like muscles is only 2, so he's got to roll like 10 or more for a normal task because he's not greatly strong. But anyway, it all makes sense. I haven't looked at this for about 20 years. This is great. Oh man, I always remember that picture. And then there's bits about beating somebody else, movement, combat. The example is Janine fending off a possessed old lady armed with an umbrella. It's just great. I love it. And then you have equipment. You can carry 3 items of equipment, and this is where these wacky cards came in. So instead of you having a character sheet full of equipment, you actually carried cards like infrared camera, Geiger counter. God, that's a big TV you want to be carrying around with you. Your proton pack, of course. Alpine gear, complete with lederhosen. PKE meter. Ectovisor. Scuba gear. Walkie-talkie is gets tricky when you can't carry your car, but you use it. Oh, there's a calling card to say that you're a franchised agent. So yeah, and you've got your books of occult lore and more scuba gear and ghost traps. So it gets tricky trying to carry all that kind of stuff around with you at once. You can carry as many items as your muscle, but if that's 4 or more, you can't actually move without just laying on the floor and grunting. So there's a quick summary of what the equipment's like and how to invent new equipment, and then a bit about psychokinetic energy, PKE, basic ghostology, and there we go. And there's some blank character sheets. You can get 6 on a sheet. That's how small they are. And a map of Ghostbusters headquarters. That was everything that was in the player's book. It's only little. What more do you need? Perfect. So I'll leave that to one side. The GM had a bigger book, the operations manual. There we go. Big table of contents. This kind of had an introduction and started on straight off with an adventure, just to get you straight into the action, and then intersperse that with some tips about how to be a Ghostmaster, and then another plot called the Couch Potato, and there's the building that you get the maps for that we referred to earlier. Oh man. And then another adventure, the horror of biomed chem tech with strange walking dustbins, and then some more Ghostmaster tips, which is more guide for a Ghostmaster gets 1 million brownie points. Yeah, you can do what you like when you're in charge. The universal movement rate, scale and turn chart. The thing/person moves a unit of distance, which is either angstrom, millimeter, game inch, foot, furlong, league, a astronomical unit, or light year. Said B, phase, pulse, strike, rank, segment, round, nano year, being equivalent to C, real world time unit, nanosecond, second, minute, hour, fortnight, month, year, geological era, except when D, it's raining, you're outdoors, you're encumbered with a lot of stuff, you don't feel well, you're going a long way, or you're losing interest in the whole business. See, that's the whole movement movement rules. It just tickles me. That's so funny. Okay, so there's a bit about ghostology, ghost presence, ghost special abilities. So they've got some special abilities that you can give to your ghosties, and then really big things like demons, eldritch horrors, and accountants. And then there's a little bit about scientific research. I'll just whip up a monophomatic chromodynamic Spitstinger. I love it. Absolutely love it. A little section on how to set up your franchise and how to run a Ghostbusters campaign. So here's a complete campaign broken down into how you could run it as lots of little episodes, and of course using Gozer as the first option. And then there's another sample campaign, and then adventure ideas. This whole section at the back, which is nearly half the book, is nothing but adventure ideas, interspersed with how to plot adventures and how to adapt things from other games like Call of Cthulhu or Chill, and then turn them into Saturday Night Live or Monty Python. I got through all of these possibly a little bit too quickly because I just loved playing this too much. And then there's a random adventure generator. And then these were a great idea. If you were in a car chase, you could roll randomly to see what happens. Like, car starts perfectly, go to section B. Or car starts and a big truck blocks it. Once you succeed getting past it, you go to B. And then light changes unexpectedly. Make a chest to avoid an accident. Section C, passengers are nauseous from the ride. And then do you finally get there? And you could roll randomly to see what happens on the way to a job, or to get a paper or permit from the government, going to court, which happens quite a lot. And then a load of NPCs. Hot dog vendor, cops, lawyers, the mafia, because, you know, research scientists, St. Pitfall's Hospital. Oh dear God, that's just awesome. Things man was not meant to know. Crusader koalas from beyond space and time. And some ghosts. And of course, being West End games and it being hilarious, there's an advert for Paranoia in the back there. And you don't get blank pages in books anymore, do you? It's just weird. Anyway, so that was the GM book. And besides those equipment cards, in the box, you also got the other character sheets for Ray, Egon, Winston, some blank ones, Janine, Dana Barrett. I think that might have been it. Can't play Lewis Tully because he's the accountant and looks after all the finances for Ghostbusters International as a whole. And of course you got your dice. Now I don't know if these are the original ones that came with it. I don't think they are, but this one certainly is, because it has a Ghostbusters logo. That's the ghost die, although all the other pips seem to have worn off. Strangely, as I said, I sold my original copy of Ghostbusters. I did have this as well, which is Ghost Toasties, the first supplement that came out. I also had the second one, which was Hot Rods of the Gods, but as I said, sold it. But when I bought this on eBay, weirdly, Ghost Toasties was in there as well, even though it wasn't listed on the eBay listing. Ghost Toasties was the first big supplement and had the GM screen, which is exciting. On the inside, it had all the really useful rules, the brief combat bits, doing things, generating ghosts, special abilities, and sequence of play, but all made out to look like the inside of driving Ecto 1. And on the outside, besides the front cover of the adventure, you had how to create your character, just in case anybody needed to do that again in a hurry, and Ghostology, which is quite useful for the players to look at. And then you had the first real supplement for it, which was a big adventure involving cereal. Oh no. Handouts. Pocket dimension of Candyland. It's like Adventure Time all over again. Cool, huh? Roll credits. Grand. I loved Ghostbusters so much. So I loved Ghostbusters so much that I wanted to write for Ghostbusters. So I wrote to West End Games, and this must have been 87. I'll have just left school, and I wanted to be a games writer. So I wrote to West End Games, because that's the only way you really contact people back in the mid-80s. I sent them a letter to New York, and a couple of months later you get a reply, which included the writer's guidelines, and it's a very nice letter just saying, this is what you need to do, and you need to send a West End Games release form with it. Get writing. So I did. I had a typewriter. It was an electric typewriter, so which helped with the tappy, but it wasn't anything that you could correct. You could lift the hood up, and it had like an engine underneath. It was it was about the size of a Volkswagen Beetle, and I had that in my bedroom, which was a very tiny bedroom, and typed away frantically for weeks and weeks, and we're talking pages of writing. If you made a mistake, you had to use those little Tipex strips that you could hold in front of the typewriter to delete if you made a typo or anything like that. And then I finished my first adventure, and before submitting it off to West End Games in New York, I made a copy of it. I photocopied it at the local library, 10p a sheet if I remember rightly, putting a coin in every time, and posted it off. So in this very dusty and creaky folder that still says General Studies on it, because this was from my sixth form, this would be about the only time I actually had any of these folders, I still have the manuscript, well, the two manuscripts for the two adventures that I wrote. So okay, this is totally cringeworthy, but here we go. So that is the first adventure, which was called Spooky Science, because it was a riff on Weird Science. And yeah, basically it was all typed, and there's pages and pages of this. So there's a little bits about buying new talents, just in case, because I just couldn't stop. I had to add some new rules. Why is that one page upside down? That is terrible. So these are all the photocopies that I made at my local library back in 87. Do I have a copyright on a date on this? No, not at all. So yeah, the basic storyline of the first one involved a fast food outlet and fitness thing going on, and it was all involving there's killer mutants in it, alien mercenaries. God, I don't remember alien mercenaries being in there, and it all kind of tied into Cthulhu gods, but of course they weren't actually Cthulhu. There was the biggest problem was Yogurt Sothoth, who was a Cthulhu type creature that was made out of yogurt. And there's the Demas Norgan. There's the Zansiath of Cthmuhu, who is a deformed trifle from the lower planes of existence. What the hell? Anyway, so I wrote this and I sent it off. I photocopied it, of course, packaged it all up and posted this enormous... How many pages is this? Cultists in a trolley, Spoggit of Cthmuhu. And I seem to remember that there was an element where New York gets flooded by yogurt, and then the end fight scene involves the Ghostbusters on wet bikes riding along the surface. And I drew some blueprints of proton packs. But do bear in mind this was just taken off of rewatching the VHS over and over again, so there's no internet or anything like that. So there's the stats for the wet bikes. Ecto 1, epilogue and rewards, and credits, which are all playtesters with my game group. Characters were all the ones that we used to play: Judd Brudd, Coma Palachi. And yeah, I had some more maps and stuff like that. And there's my letter to Greg Kostikian over at West End Games. It's a 45,000 word thing, and there's my release form for West End Games to say that I haven't copied anything of theirs. Oh, look at that! There we go. October 1986. That's cool. And there's a picture that I drew of me using my electric typewriter. So I got a letter back from that one saying, hey, great, thanks. But I think, if I remember rightly, the letter was back from Greg Kostikian as well, which is another one of those life-changing moments, because I got a letter from a publisher of games, and the sentence that stood out on there was, well, you obviously can write. And I never thought I could. So I took that as a positive sign. However, they did reject it because it involves food, yogurts. And they had just published Ghost Toasties, which was about cereal. So they figured, hey, you obviously can write. That's what they said. Why don't you submit something else? So I did. And this is where I went completely wrong, because my next one was one called Back to Transylvania, which I drew an awful picture for, which had non-player characters which were non-human, so Scooby-Doo, and it also involved time travel. And the basic plot, if I remember rightly, was vampires had taken over. There's planes, and there's maps, and there's more of that stuff. There we go. But yeah, here's another one. It's more type stuff, and yeah, the vampires taken over. There's a section where you stumble across them filming an episode of Moonlighting in the middle of New York, because Moonlighting was my other great obsession from that time, and right in the middle of filming, Bruce Willis turns into a vampire, and you realise that something has gone horribly wrong with the time streams, and you have to travel to Transylvania with a time machine and go back into the past to hunt Dracula. It was pretty bad. It was a bad idea. It was a bad idea, but it kept me off the streets, as they say, and I wrote another 140-page manuscript of it all, which is just ridiculous. Anyway, there we go. So that's how I spent my misspent youth. I also started work on another one called Into the Nightmare, which was a riff on John Landis's Into the Night meets Nightmare on Elm Street. And because I was a big John Landis fan at the time as well, I also started on one called See You Next Doomsday, which was a riff if you imagine John Landis met Evil Dead. But of course I didn't get very far with either of those ones. But that's where the bug for writing tabletop RPGs came from, and I just couldn't stop myself. They always say never throw out all your ideas, so I didn't, and I always wanted to write role-playing games of Ghostbusters, and a few years ago Russ gave me the opportunity to write for the What's Old Is New system, and wrote a riff on Ghostbusters called Spirits of Manhattan, which got converted into their ACE system, which is basically the Ghostbusters game system. And this was Spirits of Manhattan that came out for the ACE version, which is basically Ghostbusters again, except they've got the Pope-mobile. It's holy, it's consecrated, it can trap ghosts in it. And they buy an old Pope-mobile, and of course I couldn't use the word Ghostbusters, but this was the my version of it, complete in Manhattan. There's a map somewhere as well. There's the What's Old Is New version is a bit longer and a bit more in depth. There's a big bit running around a hotel. If you can recognise him from a music video, then you know where my inspiration for that character came from. And there's a protest group going on about how ghosts are alive, or ghosts have rights too. And yeah, this was just really silly and fun. And writing the original version of this, the longer one, I think was one of my favourite things I've written for a while. It all culminates very much like the end of Ghostbusters, where the evil spirit comes through and takes the form of something. And because you're in a library, the default is for a giant 100-foot tall Edgar Allan Poe walking around in the city, but it can be anything. So I was very happy to get to write that one. And when Ace happened, they wanted another one as well. So I also wrote Strange Science, which, it's a little bit like spooky science. In fact, it is, because I managed to reuse some plots and also turn it into a cross between dark Twin Peaks and Stranger Things, with some time travel. There's a lake and a research station and some big falls and a hotel, just like Twin Peaks, the sheriff's department, and then a fitness lot turns up with the Super Energy Fruit Fit juice shake, and these energy drinks all turn people into mindless zombies. There's a fitness place called Nutrition, and they turn into pod persons like Invasion of the Body Snatchers. And then you end up going back in time to the Old West to try and stop the big horrific thing, which is Cthulhu from my game that I wrote in 1986, so I managed to get to reuse it after all, and it's out there and available now from your local gaming store or from drive-through. But I still love Ghostbusters so much, you wouldn't believe. I am very excited for the next film, and I still can't believe that there isn't an RPG at the moment. I live in hope that they do a new one. Who are you going to call if you need anybody to write it? So that's it. That's my unboxing for Ghostbusters. I do love this game immensely. I haven't played it since the late 80s. Maybe I should rectify that and give it a bash, just for fun, see what it was like. Get all those D6s out again. I wonder if the gaming group will be up for that. Anyway, that's it. If you have any suggestions for what games you want me to unbox or have a look at, or get all nostalgic about, let me know in the comments or on the blog or anything like that. Until next time, stay multi-classy and stay safe.